Most people who try winter camping quit for one simple reason: the cold.
Over the years, I've spent a lot of time outside in winter, and I've definitely had a few cold nights. But learning how to manage heat and take care of yourself in cold environments really makes a huge difference.
Today, I want to share with you 8 tips that help me stay warm while spending nights outside in freezing conditions. First, we're going to look at 5 main ways our bodies lose heat in cold environments, and the most important one starts with the ground. We can lose up to 75% of our overall body heat to the ground from a process called conduction. So basically, when we come in contact with the cold earth beneath us, it sucks the heat away from us and draws it away. Here I have 2 sleeping pads stacked together, and the more insulation underneath you, the higher the R value. And what the R value is it's actually a way to measure the rating of how well your pad or pads resist heat loss to the ground. Stacking pads in cold conditions can really make a big difference, and the more insulation beneath you, it's just as good as having an extra jacket on. Another major way we lose heat loss is through convection. This happens when moving air currents like wind strip away the heat away from your body. The first way to deal with this situation is getting behind a natural windbreak, like this tree cover right here, for example. Now, as you can see, I got these tent walls here. They do a great job at blocking the wind, and they prevent moving air from constantly pulling heat away from my body.
Even something as simple as a snow trench can dramatically reduce wind exposure.
Anything that helps block the wind will reduce convection and help you stay warmer. Another way our bodies lose heat in cold environments is through radiation. Our bodies are constantly giving off heat energy, and if we don't trap that heat in with insulation, we're just giving it away to the cold air around us. That's why proper insulation and clothing are so important in winter.
It starts with a solid base layer. I like merino wool. It traps heat and wicks away moisture. Then I add a mid layer, something like a sweater for insulation. Then I add a lightweight down jacket, one of my strongest sources of insulation, followed by an outer shell that's waterproof and windproof to block the elements and seal in the heat. And finally a toque, helping reduce heat loss from your head.
Another major way we lose heat in winter is through perspiration. When we're moving and we start sweating, that turns into moisture, gets us wet, then pulls heat away from our body.
On the trail, I like to make adjustments early, taking off a layer before I start to sweat. And it's always better to start with less. Be bold and start cold.
And the final way we lose heat from our bodies in cold environments is through respiration. Every time we exhale, we release warm air and moisture from our bodies into the cold air.
A balaclava helps retain heat, but it can also trap moisture. So at the very least, it's best to keep your nose exposed to let your breath escape. One mistake people sometimes make is breathing inside their sleeping bag. When this happens, the moisture from your breath condenses, and that can build up inside your insulation, which can actually make you colder.
Another tip is to eat some calories before you go to bed, particularly foods that are higher in fat, because fat keeps you warm, and when you go to bed at night, your body heats up through the process of digestion. I personally really like salami for its high fat content, and the great thing about salami is it lasts really well outdoors. Another important tip for staying warm is protecting your extremities. When it gets really cold, your body pulls blood away from your fingers, your hands, your face, your feet, into your core to protect your vital organs. That means these areas can get cold very quickly, so wearing warm gloves, thick socks, and covering your head can make a big difference. And it's always good to keep a spare pair of warm socks for nighttime. One last trick that can make a big difference on a cold winter night is using a hot water bottle inside your sleeping bag.
First, you're going to need to boil some water. Then, very carefully, pour it into a durable water bottle. I recommend using a Nalgene. It's built to handle heat, and it's the one I trust. Make sure the lid is tightly sealed. Hot water can burn you if it leaks. Then insert the water bottle inside a sock. I like to use a -20-degree rated sock for extra insulation. Then place it inside your sleeping bag. This will stay warm for hours throughout the night.
Those are 8 tips that help me stay warm while spending nights outside in freezing conditions. When you understand how your body loses heat and you prepare properly for it, winter camping can actually be a really enjoyable experience. Stay warm out there, and I'll see you on the next adventure.